Right, this is part 2 to the Lexmoto moped investigation. So initially when I first got the bike, the guy that I got it off said, look, it's seized, the engine's finished, you know, it needs a new engine. That's what the garage told him. So when I got it back, I checked the oil, there was nothing in there, not even a drop on the dipstick. It takes 0.8 litres to fill the bike up. I added 0.8 litres and it came onto the medium level on the dipstick, so it was completely empty. So I was expecting the worst. I expected the crank seized. That's why it seized. As soon as I started digging into it, it became apparent that the crank's not seized. It's the actual piston had seized itself to the cylinder walls. And upon looking at it, it looked like the wrist pin had fallen out on one side and wedged itself. It's disintegrated. There's nothing left of that. But from what I can see, the damage to the piston, and it's missing a wrist pin on one side, it's jammed it all up and it was seized that way. I have removed the cylinder head, which I'll show you in a minute. That's destroyed. The piston itself is destroyed. Not the cylinder head's not destroyed, sorry. The actual cylinder itself is finished. The cylinder head is fine. There's no damage on that. There's a few bits of pitting onto the top near the valves, but nothing that would stop the bike from running. I've tested the valves. I put petrol on the valve seats and it didn't leak, so they're nice and sealed. I'll show you the piston now, but there is a bit of a problem. I've never come across this on a bike before, but before I show you the piston, I'll show you the cylinder. It's a bit hard to see inside there. Let me turn the camera around and get a better view of this. So that's the piston, the cylinder. It is completely marked and gouged all the way around. There's a huge gouge there, which is where I think the wrist pin first came out. So now I'll show you the actual piston. And there's a reason why the piston's still connected to the conrod. Look at the state of the piston. It's completely mangled. But the bigger issue is this will not move. It is solid on the conrod. It doesn't move back or forth. I mean, the crank moves up and down, but the piston is actually welded itself to the conrod. The actual the section that allows it to move up and down freely is completely melted to there. I've never ever came across this before. This is welded to the actual conrod, so I keep soaking it in WD-40. I'm going to give it a couple of days. Every once or twice a day I'll come up to it and just spray it with WD-40, trying to get some movement in that. If it doesn't start to move, I will heat it and bash it out that way. But this is absolutely stuck solid to the conrod. And if you can see, it's actually got some little marks on the top of the piston there. Look like a crack, but where something's came out of this side is missing the wrist pin. This side's got it in, but it's wedged seized in there. So I've ordered a new cylinder kit, which is unbelievable. I've got a 150cc bore kit coming for this bike, and it was £20. £20, I couldn't believe it. But that comes with the piston, the wrist pins, gaskets and cylinder. So for £20 it's not a bad fix, but I've still got to get this piston. I mean, you can see, if you look there, you can actually see the wrist pin actually sticking out of the side of the piston there. But the crank's fine. I've turned it over while holding the piston. There's no rough feel in there, it doesn't get caught up. So the next video will be piston off, hopefully, fingers crossed, and I will then install the new 150cc bore kit to the bike, and we will then see if it runs, if this Chinese scooter can survive a heat seizure and run again, and if it does, how well does it run. So there will be a part 3 to this video, but hopefully that will be the bike. I'll do a first start on video once it's all back together. But if anyone's got any ideas on how to push the wrist pin out of this piston, because it is seized solid inside there, that would be great. Thank you.